Welcome to Claims Navigation. Today we're going to continue where we left off from our last video, which was on Ontario fault determination rules. In that video, we dealt with Rule 1 to 10. I encourage you to check it out and see what it's all about, and I think you're going to learn a lot of things from it. So today we're going to start on Rule 11 and take it to Rule 20. So Rule 11 deals with Pileups, and this is a rule that applies when three or more vehicles are going in the same direction but adjacent lanes. So Rule 11.2 deals with collision between two automobiles involved in a pileup. So if there's a pileup is an accident involving over three cars. And this rule applies to the collision between two cars in the pileup. And based on that accident scenario, fault is assessed at 50-50 for the vehicles involved in the pileup. So for example, let's say automobile A, B, and C. Automobile A will be assessed 50%, automobile B 50%, automobile C will be assessed 50%. Now, pileups typically occurs due to weather conditions or slicky road conditions. So the rule would apply 50% fault to each driver. Now, Rule 12 deals with sideswipes, and Rule 12 would apply to vehicles in sideswipes involving vehicles in opposite directions. So if automobile A and B are traveling in opposite directions and they change lanes or both are on or over the center lane when the sideswipe occurs, the fault is assessed at 50%. So if two cars are traveling in opposite directions and they cross over the separating line and come in contact, and it's not determinable which vehicle crossed the lane, that accident is assessed at 50% liability to each driver. Rule 12.3 states that if the location of automobile A and B cannot be determined when the sideswipe happens, it is still 50% apportionment of fault. Rule 12.4 states that if the automobile B is over the center line when the collision happens, then automobile B will be assessed at 100% fault. So what that means is that two cars traveling in opposite directions and one of them veers off their lane, crosses the dividing line into the lane of the other vehicle, then certainly the car that crossed the line will be assessed 100% at fault. Rule 12.5 pertains to automobile B making a left-hand turn into the path of automobile A. So typically it will be an intersection accident where automobile B is making a left turn and automobile A is going straight. The car going straight will typically have the right of way unless that intersection is controlled by a traffic signal or a stop sign. So if there are no traffic signals or stop signs, and the car making the left turn made the left turn and came in contact with the car that's going through the roadway, the car making the left-hand turn will be assessed at fault. Rule 12.6 states that if the automobile B is leaving a parking place or is entering the road from a private road or driveway, and automobile A is overtaken to pass another vehicle when the collision happens, automobile B will be assessed 100% at fault. So there's a much higher duty imposed on vehicles leaving a parking spot and joining a thoroughfare roadway. So if you're leaving a parking spot or parking lane or coming out of a plaza and you're connecting with the roadway, you are required to make that connection in safety. So if a car is overtaken and you coming out of a private driveway or roadway or parking lot and there's an accident involved between the car coming out of the plaza and the car overtaking, the car coming out of the plaza or private parking or road or private parking spot will be assessed at fault for the accident. So that's it for Rule 12. We now go to Rule 13, and this rule deals with intersection accidents where there are no traffic controls. So this applies to accidents that happen at an intersection with no traffic controls, which is no stop signs, no yield signs, and no traffic signs. So Rule 13.2 states that if automobile A enters into the intersection first, right? So there are two cars coming into an intersection. The first car that comes into the intersection first before the collision happens will not be assessed at fault. The car that came in second will be assessed at fault for the accident. Rule 13.2 states that if automobile A and B enters the same time and automobile A is to the right of automobile B will be assessed 100% at fault. So this one's very tricky, and I know it upsets a lot of people. So you're going through an intersection, right? And you come into the intersection at the same time. The car that is to the right of the other car will be 100% not at fault, and the car to the left will be 100% at fault. So the car to the left will be required to ensure that they're going through in safety. And Rule 13.4 states that if it cannot be established who entered the intersection first, then the fault will be determined on a 50-50 basis. That's Rule 13.4. Now we go to Rule 14, which deals with intersections with traffic signs. So this rule applies to accidents that happen at an intersection with traffic signs, i.e. stop signs, yield signs. So Rule 14.2 states that if collision happens between automobile B that doesn't obey the stop sign, automobile B will be 100% at fault. So if at an intersection that is controlled by a stop sign, if you don't stop at the stop sign that mandates a stop, you will be assessed 100% at fault. Now, sometimes it happens that both cars, both traveling directions have a stop sign, and both drivers may decide not to respect the stop sign and perhaps want to take a chance and go through it. If an accident happens in that scenario where both vehicles fail to yield the stop sign, both vehicles will be assessed 50-50 fault apportionment. Rule 14.4 states that if it cannot be established who didn't stop at the stop sign, then it's still going to be a 50-50 fault apportionment. Now, this one gets contentious because it's a he said, she said scenario. A lot of times drivers will, swear on stack of Bibles that they did stop at the stop sign. It was the other guy's fault. But unfortunately, if there are no witnesses or any evidence to corroborate that position, then certainly the insurance adjuster will not be in a position to assess who's at fault. And under those circumstances, the fault determination will be 50-50. Rule 14.5 says that if at an always stop sign, car A arrives first and stops, and car B decides to move, then car B will be assessed 100% at fault. Rule 14.6, if at an always stop sign, car A and B arrive at the same time and stop, but car A is to the right, then car B will be assessed 100% at fault. That follows the same rule that we spoke about earlier. So always be careful when you're at an intersection, right? Any car to your right will probably have the right of way, so you probably should yield to that car and let them go. Because like if there's an accident, suddenly the chances are the car to the left will be assessed 100% at fault for that accident. Rule 14.7 says if it cannot be established who arrived at the stop sign first, then the fault will be determined on a 50-50 basis. So now we go to Rule 15, which deals with intersection with traffic signals. So this rule applies to accidents that happen at an intersection with traffic signals. So Rule 15.2, if automobile B fails to obey a traffic sign, so there's a running a red light, then automobile B will be assessed 100% at fault. If it cannot be established who disobeyed the traffic signal, the fault determination will be based on 50-50. So if we don't know who ran the red light, there are no witnesses, there are no cameras at the intersection, then certainly 50-50 apportionment will be assessed. Rule 15.4 states that if the traffic signals don't work, then the intersection is treated like an always stop. So, and you've probably experienced something like this where the traffic lights are down, everybody is required to treat it as a four-way stop. So the cars that comes to the intersection first will go and you just rotate based on how you came to the intersection. So that's very easy. And Rule 16 applies to parking lots. So this applies to accidents that happen in parking lots. And typically parking lot accidents deals with who has the right of way, right? So you got to understand the definitions that apply for parking lots. There's a thoroughfare roadway, which means a road for passing into, through, or out of a parking lot. Drivers on a thoroughfare have a first priority, okay? And then the next type of roadway in a parking lot is called a feeder lane. So a feeder lane means a road in the parking lot that isn't a thoroughfare. So a thoroughfare will probably be the main driveway in a parking lot, right? And the feeder lanes will be those lanes that leads into the parking spots that connects to the thoroughfare. So you got to be very cognizant of that. Rule 16.3 says if automobile A is leaving a feeder lane and doesn't yield to automobile B, who is on a thoroughfare, then automobile A will be assessed 100% at fault. Rule 16.4 states that if automobile B is leaving a parking space and doesn't yield to automobile A, who is on a feeder lane or thoroughfare, automobile B will be assessed 100% at fault. Now, so the differentiation with this for this rule is that if you're backing out of a parking spot or driving out of a parking spot and you collide with a car that's driving on the feeder lane or a thoroughfare, that you will be assessed 100% at fault. So Rule 17 deals with parked cars. So if automobile B is parked when hit by automobile A will be 100% at fault. So if a properly parked car is struck, the car that struck the parked car will be assessed 100% at fault. Now, Rule 17.2 states that if automobile A is illegally parked or stopped when hit by automobile B, the accident happens outside a city, town, or village, automobile A is 100% at fault. So even if your car is parked, but if you are not properly parked or you are illegally parked, and your car gets hit while illegally parked, you will still be assessed 100% at fault for that accident. So be careful where you park, make sure it's legal, make sure it complies with the rules, because you don't want a situation where you parked and your car is struck and now the adjuster is telling you you're at fault because you parked in an illegal spot. Rule 18, A to D, deals with failure of drivers to comply or to obey. So Rule 18 states if the accident happens because driver A fails to obey, 18A will be a police officer's direction, 18B, do not enter sign, 18C, do not pass sign, 18D, do not turn sign. If a driver fails to obey any of those four rules, then certainly they will be assessed 100% at fault, because failing to adhere to those rules and getting into an accident with another car. So if you fail to obey the police officer's directions and you struck automobile B, you're 100% at fault. If you drive into a do not enter sign and you collide with automobile B, 100%. If there's a sign or roadway sign that says do not pass and you pass and then get into an accident, 100% at fault. And if there's a sign that says do not turn, it could be a U-turn, it could be a left turn, right turn, and you make the turn, collides with another car, 100% at fault. So that's pretty simple and straightforward. Rule 19 deals with when a driver is reversing or backing up. So if you're reversing and you hit a car while reversing, you'll be held 100% at fault. That's Rule 19A. Rule 19B deals with making a U-turn. So if a driver is making a U-turn and collides with another vehicle that's going on a thoroughfare or a roadway, the driver making the U-turn will be assessed 100% at fault. Rule 19C is if driver A or passenger in automobile A opens or leaves a door open and then a second car hits an open door, the automobile A will be assessed 100% at fault. So the driver or passenger of the vehicle that left the door open and got struck by automobile B will be assessed 100% at fault. So then Rule 20 deals with driving offenses, and that could be operating, if there's a charge for operating the automobile while the ability to operate the automobile is impaired by alcohol or drugs. So that's Rule 20.1A. So if you're high on drugs or alcohol, like that could be a serious criminal charge arising from that. And also, if the alcohol blood level exceeds the limit permitted by law, then certainly that's another serious automobile charge, criminal charge, and any accident arising out of that automatically attracts 100% liability. If a driver is charged with an indictable offense related to the operation of the automobile, any accident arising out of that will be assessed 100% at fault. If the driver is asked to provide a breath sample and he or she is charged with failing or refusing to provide a breath sample, that certainly will be deemed to be 100% at fault, and also it's a criminal offense for refusing to provide your breath sample. If the driver is asked to perform physical coordination tests or submit to an evaluation, and he or she is charged with failing or refusing to comply with the demand, certainly that's an offense under Rule 20. And if as a result of the incident, the driver is charged with exceeding the speed limit by 16 or more kilometers per hour, that's also a problem. Okay, and Rule 20.2, how driving offenses change fault. Rule 20.2 states that the degree of fault of the insured shall be determined in accordance with the ordinary rules of law and not in accordance with these rules. If the driver of automobile A involved in the incident is charged with a driving offense, and if the driver of automobile B is wholly or partly at fault as otherwise determined under these rules for the accident. So where there's no clarity or both drivers are charged, it says the degree of fault shall be determined in accordance with the ordinary rules of law and not based on the fault determination rules. So that will be the end of it. I ask you to please like, share, and subscribe, and we're going to have more interesting topics in future. So please like, share, and subscribe, and look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you very much.